Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 26th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see this storm system, the one we've been talking about here for several days, moving right towards Haida Gwaii in western British Columbia. It's going to try to bring some windy conditions and some precipitation as far south as Washington, but British Columbia is going to be getting the lion's share, like I've been mentioning, of the precipitation and the wind with this system. We'll take a look at what is to come as we go through the weekend coming up here as well. And the extended forecast, as always. Let's take a look at what happened yesterday because we did have quite the crazy day. Let me make sure the lightning is overlaid on here as well so we can go ahead and play through this. Going through the morning hours, you can see we started off with some sunshine east of the mountains. The clouds quickly spread across the region here. We had some very gusty winds, and look at all these thunderstorms that developed across the Cascades of Oregon, some into southern Washington, North Cascades as well, eastern Washington, Oregon. Look at this particularly powerful line of thunderstorms that moved across some of southeast Washington also. And Spokane had a gust of 61 miles per hour. A lot of blowing dust out there. Saw a lot of images on this social media yesterday as well. And then we scroll all the way towards where we are this morning, and you can see the sun start to rise. And you can next see our next frontal system out here across Pacific Ocean. This powerful storm moving mainly north of Vancouver Island. Taking a look at Spokane National Weather Service, you can see Thursday through Monday coming up here through September 30th, the end of the month. You can see chances of some mountain showers at times, some breezy conditions. Look at that possible AM frost there on Saturday, marking the change as on into fall weather coming up here. And you can see some of the overnight lows at the bottom of these graphics. And if we take a look at today, there is a dense fog advisory. This may actually even be expiring because we're going to have the clouds start to swoop through the area today, and it'll stir up the atmosphere. And of course, that'll go away as we go through the morning hours. But just like to show you that National Weather Service, Portland, Oregon there. Looking at Seattle yesterday, 65 degrees, 69 the average high for this time of year. Got a tenth of an inch officially yesterday. We'll take what we can get. We're up over a half an inch now, probably a little bit more coming here as we go through tonight. I'll show you that here in a moment as well. Taking a look here at eastern Washington, I selected a couple stations here, one across southeast Washington, one just outside of Cheney here. And look at some of these wind speeds that were showing up on the Tempest weather flow. And by the way, if you want one of these weather systems, click on that link down below to save 10% off. Look at some of the impressive gusts. 46 miles per hour was reached, looks like 2 or 3 times there, as some very strong winds blew across the region, driving all that blowing dust, thunderstorm activity with that as well. And if we take a look at the one closer to Cheney, look at that 51 miles per hour. Very impressive gust, especially if this is not set up, on a roof where it officially would be, but in somebody's backyard or whatnot. This is very impressive reading here. So good job by the weather stations there. And if we take a look, there were some thunderstorm wind gust damage out there. Several large tree branches broken off tops of trees, fell into roofs and broke through. Significant roof damage. Also reported blowing debris and dust here. So again, Spokane National Weather Service. And if we take a look at Spokane, officially the max yesterday was 88 degrees. So we went through a huge cool down when that wind moved through. And you can see codes 3, 7, and 8, which were thunder, dust storm or sandstorm, and smoke or haze. And with the 61 mile per hour wind gust here, very intense wind moving through the area. Max speed there, 43 miles per hour, fastest mile. So yeah, very impressive wind speeds rolling through. And if we go ahead and take a look at the system moving through, that was the one right there that spawned all that damage there, and the very powerful winds and thunderstorm activity. And then the next one here with this very powerful gradient moving mainly into western British Columbia with a very robust looking system here. And what we're looking at here is the northern hemisphere. There's Greenland, there's Washington State, there's Alaska, Hawaiian Islands, Japan would be over here. And if we take a look, there's Europe over there. And you can kind of see how the northern hemisphere and this weather moves around. This kind of shows you the coldest air and where it is. And this tends to get bigger and move further south as we go on into the fall and the winter months. This marks where the mid-latitude cyclones develop. And that's why we call them mid-latitude cyclones. But yeah, you can see the contrast between the warmer air across the equatorial regions and versus the northern hemisphere. So if we take a look at 18,000 feet, 500 millibars, there's the system yesterday. And then we have this next system rolling in here. A little bit of a ridge tries to build, but we do have another weak system moving through this weekend, as you can see there. And then we're playing this cat and mouse game of trying to build some ridging with another very strong storm moving up into southeast Alaska. And this, you can see how this pressure gradient will intensify as we go on in through Monday into Tuesday, and that's going to bring some what of a system as we go through next week as well. So we'll be watching that one. We'll see how much we warm up in between some of these systems here. But it is that time of year where these systems start to come a little bit more fast and furious, but you still can warm up at times as well. So you want to keep that in mind. But if we take a look at mean sea level pressure anomaly, this is the system as of about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock last night. And here we go through this morning, 981 millibar low. And this is where we are right about now, actually a little bit off into the future. But probably the strongest portion of the storm is about 11 a.m. today. Look at that 976 millibar low. Strongest pressure gradient, again, Vancouver Island north across western British Columbia, but it doesn't mean there can't be some strong winds, especially across the northwest interior, Bellingham, Skagit, Whatcom County, some of Whidbey Island, the San Juans, northwest Washington coast, Vancouver Island up the Strait of Georgia as well, as the system burrows into the coastline as we go on in through tonight and on in through Friday morning coming up. So if we take a look at composite reflectivity, this is what the Doppler radar may look like. Sorry that it cuts it off here for Vancouver Island, but I just want to kind of show you where the sharpest cutoff. You see that moderate rainfall moving into Vancouver Island. Some of this trying to clip Washington as a frontal system moves through as we go through this afternoon. And again, the biggest impacts, northwest interior, northbound with that. You can see it try to bring some precipitation to Seattle. Little bit of a tease there for some of Oregon, but again, that storm is pretty far north. And then we scroll on in through Friday. Looks like a mostly dry day for a lot of Washington, Oregon, but then another system will be approaching here as we go on in through Saturday. You can see some of that precipitation there. We'll revisit that one tomorrow. If we look at total precipitation in inches on the European, that was from last night's convergence zone across the Cascades here. Then you can see the next storm really blasting Vancouver Island, western BC. And look at some of these totals up over 3 inches, but much less for Seattle and Portland. A little bit better amounts north of Seattle and the northwest Washington coast. But look at Vancouver Island, western BC. Some areas getting some huge amounts with this storm. So looking at Hoquiam here, right on the Washington coast, you can see, not talking about a lot, maybe a quarter of an inch coming up. Tillamook, further down south on the Oregon coastline, you're looking at just over 1/10 of an inch, not much to write home about there. And you can see some blustery conditions for some of the South Washington coast. But if we go a little bit further north, you can see the pretty good model agreement for some of these gusts up over 40 miles per hour. The control has 43, so this will get your attention if you are out and about across the northwest Washington coastline there. And check it out for Whidbey. Look at this, 43 in the control, and some of the ensembles are even higher. So probably pretty downright windy conditions for this time of year. So some places across the northwest interior. And look at Bellingham, 41. Some of the ensembles actually showing up towards 50 miles per hour as well. So that will get your attention. You can get some nuisance power outages with this activity. Now, taking a look at the timing on some of this is the North American model. You see the winds picking up as we go through this is about 1 p.m. here. You can see them start to pick up across the northwest interior and some of Vancouver Island right off the coastal regions here. And they will be picking up during the day and peaking, what is that, right about 5, 6 o'clock this afternoon across the northwest interior and the northwest Washington coastline. And then we scroll through. You notice it doesn't really get that windy for Seattle or Portland, but you might get some blustery conditions, but nothing too crazy, at least compared to what's going to be coming this fall. And if we scroll through here and look at some of the peak gusts, you can see up towards 50 for some of Bellingham and Whidbey Island, 48 for Quileute there, but you see how the winds rapidly drop off across the Oregon coast. And for Seattle, a blustery day, 32 miles per hour. Might get your attention a little bit there, but nothing too crazy. And just one more look at things here as we look at the European, where the strongest winds way up towards Haida Gwaii. So looking at Seattle, Tacoma, what's coming here, the GFS, you can see as we go through this system here and another system, weak system coming through this weekend. But then there is some ridging that does show up at times out in some of the extended forecasts. So you still can warm up at this time of year. So we're going to be watching that, playing that cat and mouse game with some of the troughing versus the ridging developing here. We'll revisit that again tomorrow. And this is the European, the latest. Actually, let me do this. Let me bounce out here, and I'm going to show you yesterday afternoon's. Just want to kind of show you the European not in the agreement with the GFS on that warm up coming up later in the period. But again, that can change on a daily basis. So if we take a look at the GFS as of, this is as of last night, and you can see the system moving through today. Ridge temporarily tries to build. Weak system still moving through this weekend. Stronger storms going to be moving up towards southeast Alaska as we go through the early portion of next week. May eventually start to bring degrading front down towards Pacific Northwest. But then you can see what the GFS was showing with some ridging off in the extended forecast, perhaps warming things up yet again. But again, we'll break that down day by day. Also, do want to mention this. You can see the significant wave heights that will be rushing in as we go through the day today. First, Vancouver Island, Haida Gwaii, west coast of BC, and then this does start to bring some of this activity as we go through Friday morning. And Friday morning, probably the peak here during the day Friday for Washington, Oregon coastline there. So you're definitely going to notice the increase in the wave activity. And then that next strong storm moves into southeast Alaska and will also bring a bump in the wave action as we go through next week, all the way down the west coast as well. And if we look at the 6 to 10 day here, above normal across, just a clipping portion of the Pacific Northwest. A lot of the Pacific Northwest still below normal here, October 1st through 5th. Take that with a grain of salt. Not worth much at this time, but you see the big above average bullseye here across the Southwest USA through October 5th, and kind of this near normal maybe across some of the Pacific Northwest as well. But yeah, here it goes. Storm is rolling in here. And, it's still early in the season, and it is a pretty powerful storm out there, but largely missing areas, Seattle, south across Portland and down through the Willamette Valley. And yeah, you're not going to feel much of the effects of the storm as if you were a bit further north. But as you can see on the satellite imagery, you can also see some lenticular clouds already going up on the Cascades. I may actually go and take a look at that today, depending on how things clear up towards Mount Rainier. Maybe try to get another time lapse or two out there. And by the way, if you want to check out my new time lapse, click it down there on the left side. What else? And if you want to buy a men's hoodie, women's hoodie, they're pretty good. I wear these all the time, especially when things start cooling down as we get towards the winter months. So anyway, hope you guys are liking the channel. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.